Keller Hayes, and I'm with Transportation and Construction Girl, and we are excited to have you here for our Career Exploration webinar. Today, we're really lucky to have two extremely powerful women that have very successfully created their own careers. The first one who will be speaking is Arinda Kale. She is Estimating Compliance Manager for Dragados USA, where she works with the estimating department through the bidding process to meet the administrative needs of the estimating department. She also leads Dragados' diversity, inclusion, and workforce development efforts during project procurement, which means that she's made sure that women and minority business owners actually get a chance to be included in large projects. And to give you an idea of the size of Dragados, they have 10,000 employees internationally. Arinda began her career in the construction industry 19 years ago when she started as a payroll manager for a mid-sized construction company in Southern California. And since that time, she's built a career by noticing the needs of the company she works for and creating positions to fill those needs. One of the things that Arinda has done is to create her own job description. Yes, that's a thing you can do. And Dragados is a gold sponsor of Transportation and Construction Girl. We are so excited to have you here, Arinda. All yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's nice to have some FaceTime with everybody. We don't get to do that very much anymore. So thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen first and foremost. We'll go over just a couple of things that give you an idea of the type of work that Dragados does across the country. And actually across the world, just these are the disciplines that are most common here in the US. Let's see if everybody can see. Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
I want to make sure that I don't always have to be looking over to the side. Okay. You'll see me looking off to the side a little bit just as I change screens. So let me get this to the slideshow. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So one of, first and foremost, Dragados is most known for our tunnel work across the US and Spain, Italy. And this image is a tunnel boring machine. So this is what the face of it looks like. And to give you some indication, so this particular tunnel boring machine was built to build a tunnel that goes underneath the city of Seattle. The project name is SR99. And these two men right here are about this guy's about 6'3". He's like, say almost 6 foot. So that gives you an idea of just how big that machine is. And then this is, as the tunnel is being built, this is what the inside of the tunnel looks like. So these little sections that you'll see that look like puzzle pieces, those are just giant concrete slabs. And as the machine goes through, the face of it grinds up the rock, and then the machine follows and places these like a little robot, for lack of a better word. And it just keeps going until it gets to the end of where the tunnel is supposed to come out.
And Arinda, I know that it's sort of like a given, but you called it a tunnel boring machine. Can you just say that doesn't mean that you just made it fall asleep?
Yeah, so let me go back. I'll show you this. So these little gears, these little yellow gears, and so these little yellow gears spin. These large green shafts also spin. So the entire machine spins, and then all these little things inside spin as well. And they just grind up the rock. So first and foremost, you dig a huge hole that goes down as deep as you need it to go. The machine gets placed down with a crane down into the hole, and then you start working it, and it drives 24/7. A tunnel like the one that was built in Seattle took about 3 years. We have another project here in Southern California that is about a 6-mile tunnel. It'll take about 2 years of constant boring. So as the machine goes through, it just runs 24/7. People come in and shift their schedules, like there's a night crew and a day crew and a mid crew, and they just keep working, and the machine never stops, and that's how long it takes to get 6 miles in a machine. So that'll give you some idea that the projects are usually long. They're also very expensive. They're usually in the multi-billion-dollar range for a tunnel. And typically, by the time the tunnel is done, so is the machine. So the investment that is made for the machine is usually expended by the end of the project as well. And they're pretty expensive, and they only get built overseas, and so they have to get shipped here to the US in pieces and then assembled. So that's another whole job. So there's a lot of different jobs that come into play when you're building a project, things that you don't even think of that are actual jobs. Mine being one of them. We'll get into that in a little bit. So that's kind of the tunnel aspects. So I'll give you an idea that that's part of the work we do. We also do a lot of dam work. And this is a dam that was built in Northern California. Dams can be difficult to envision, but all of this mountain basically will go away. The machines will just keep coming and grinding it down, and that rock and dirt will get placed in places like this that will fill this in, and then the dam will be erected from there. Highways are another avenue that we pursue in particular states, really, throughout the US. We have several sister companies throughout the US. Some of them focus their work on highways. So in those markets, we don't compete with them. We either partner with them to build a project, or they build the project. We just don't compete against our sister companies. One, it's illegal. Two, you want to make sure that there's always an even playing field, that it wouldn't be fair if we had multiple companies that at the end of the day, all of the money goes to the same place. So we have to be really cognizant of the work that we pursue across the US, and then not every market does it make sense for us to pursue a project.
Can you explain just a little bit more what a sister company is?
Yes, yeah. So Dragados USA is a construction company here in the US. We have a parent company that owns us, and that is Dragados SA, which is in Spain. And so they own Dragados USA, but they also own several other construction companies throughout the US. So Turner Construction is one of those companies. Flatiron is one of those companies. Schiavone on the East Coast is a company. Picone, Police. I think there's about 10 total. Some focus on highways, like Flatiron is well known in Colorado for doing work on highways. And some of them, White is a company of ours in Florida. And some focus in water, some focus in highways, some are more along the lines of doing like water treatment facilities, those types of things. So everybody's kind of got their niche, and where our niches overlap, we tend to create what's called a joint venture, which is basically a partnership. Our company works with their company and we create a team, and we bid a project as a team versus just as one company. And that helps spread, well, one, it helps the profit margin for more than one company, which is beneficial when you've got multiple companies under one parent. It also spreads the risk that our companies assume. So every time we do a project, there's risk involved with each project, whether we'll be able to finish it on time, on budget, safety issues, all those things come about throughout a project. And there's a risk assigned to that. And when you have multiple companies involved, you spread the risk across those companies, which makes everybody feel a little more secure about pursuing a project that is multi-billion dollars. So we tend to do that quite a bit here in the US.
Thank you.
And then this is a bridge that we're doing in Corpus Christi. This is actually a mock-up because the bridge isn't up yet, and the other bridge is about halfway down. I think they've got it up enough to keep people going from one side to the other, but they're in the process of getting this bridge built. So this is what it will look like once it's complete. I think that's it. Is that, yeah. So I'll stop sharing now. So that's the type of work we do, and it's fun. Our projects are really, really long though. So you get involved, and you will be involved in a project for anywhere from a year to 2.5 in the time that it takes us to bid a project. That doesn't count whether we've been selected by the owner to do the project, and if so, then those projects have to be built. That's anywhere from 3 years to 10, depending on what the project is and where it is and the level of weather that has to be worked around. Here in Southern California, we tend to work every day. There's not a lot that stops us from doing anything because it doesn't rain and we don't really have, bad weather ever. So that's the case. But we also have projects in New York and, upstate New York where there's a whole season that very little work gets done, if any. So it just kind of depends on where we are and what the project is.
So what on earth got you interested in this industry? What's your career path?
I don't know that I have a career path. I have a career roller coaster, more like it. As you mentioned, I started in payroll. My background, and I use that term loosely, was accounting. I actually went to school to be a paralegal, and I had a baby and didn't want to work that many hours, and accounting was a fallback position for me because I'd grown up with an accountant as a mother. So I grew up spending spring break and summer vacations reconciling accounts and creating files and doing things like that. So I actually never realized I was even learning accounting until I got the job, and it was just like I thought it was the easiest thing ever. This job, I don't even have to think about it. It's so nice. And so what felt very natural to me, I soon realized, was only because I had the foundation of learning it at a young age. It wasn't that, it's necessarily an easy job. It's not. And there's a lot of parts to it that make it more difficult when you're dealing with people's salary and, things like that. So And then I kind of worked up through accounting. I did accounts payable for a while. I was a controller for a while. So those are all different levels within an accounting department. You kind of just work, it's one of those things where you work from one level to the next. And that was the first good portion of my career. That was probably the first 9 years of my career, was working through the accounting department. And in any industry, you can't be in it for 9 years and not learn the other parts of it as well. I've always kind of been the person who stepped in to cover someone's desk if they went on vacation, and inevitably you end up learning how to do that job, whether it's intentional or because you had to get something done and they were on vacation. So a lot of times that's how it happens. It's not always this, laid out plan. And in my experience, it's never been a laid out plan. It's just something that kind of developed. So that's the background of like when I first got into construction.
And one of the things that I know that you had mentioned when we were talking is that you really were paying attention and you wrote your own job description. I don't think that a lot of people know that's even possible. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I first came up to Dragata's office in Orange County, I had been living in San Diego. I had worked in I'd done various things. I've done contracts and accounting, as I mentioned. I've worked with the estimating department to get bids out, that type of stuff. An aspect of that work is diversity and inclusion. It's always a part that hit home for me, mostly because I'm a woman in this industry that is male dominated. And I started to realize like, oh, we can get minority and women companies to work on all of our projects. That's pretty cool. I want to be part of that. That just feels good to go to work and do something like that. So when I came up to Orange County, there wasn't anybody in our office doing it. I was actually hired to be an estimating administrator, which is a job I had done over the years and was very comfortable with. So it didn't take a ton of bandwidth. Like, it was a job that I had done for so long that I could do it pretty second nature. I didn't have a hard time prioritizing. The work was easy to me only because I had been doing it for so long. So I went to my boss and said, we have this huge project coming up. It was a multi-billion-dollar project for a air train in Los Angeles at the airport. And I said, we need to have representation as part of the diversity and inclusion team. So when you have huge projects like this, they get sectioned out and you create teams that you work in, and each team's responsible for certain aspects of the work and how we are going to communicate that to the owner, what we plan to do, how we plan to meet the requirements of the project, that type of stuff. So I said, I'd really like to be on that team, and I'll keep doing my job. So I'll do my job, I'll go to the meetings, and then I actually took the time in the evenings and sometimes on the weekends and did the work that was necessary for the other parts of the work, the diversity and inclusion that I wanted to be part of, which meant sometimes I was working in Los Angeles until late at night because we had an outreach event, or I went in on Saturday to be a panelist when we did this in person for a forum in Los Angeles. So there were a lot of times where I was on the road. There definitely was, doing the work before you are getting paid to do the work. And so I did that for about a year. And at the end of the year, I started to see, like, with all the projects that were coming up, like, I can make a full-time job out of this. So I actually had a weekend where there was not going to be anybody at home, which doesn't happen very often. And I sat down and wrote out a complete job description and a proposal about how to transition from my current position. That is a great job. It was a job I just felt like I was outgrowing and I didn't want to be stagnant. So I came up with a plan about how we either delegate that work out if they weren't open to the idea of hiring someone, or a list of candidates that I knew could come in and I could hand over work to them, people that I'd worked with in the past that I knew would be able to take that work on. And then I also submitted what I wanted to be paid for that position, and explained that I feel like over the last year, I have proven I can do the work. I've, notated the amount of hours that it takes and all the things that go into that, and that justified the salary I was asking for. And I gave it to my boss, and I gave it to him at the end of a work day. The next day he came in and just said, "This is fantastic. I support it 100%. And then he took it to his boss and so on and so forth. And next thing I know, they're like, "Yep, everything's good. You got, we'll transition you into this new position and we'll fill your old position," which was fantastic. And then 2020 happened. And so now I am back to doing both jobs, but I know that's an interim. And again, like, you have to be willing to pick up the slack and say, right now it means a lot of work and some long weeks and, two totally different jobs, but that's not going to be forever. And next year, when it's time for a review, I will remind everybody that for a year I did 2 jobs and that my pay should be reflective of that. And so I think knowing your worth and being able to communicate that in a way that isn't egotistical, but fact-based, like, I'm not going to go to my boss and say, "Hey, I've worked long, hard hours for the last year," and have him say anything other than, "Yeah, I know." So, next year should be a great year.
Well, we are all holding out for that for you. Now I want to go to our next speaker, and then we'll come back for some questions. But our next speaker has not let any grass grow under her feet either. Audrey Grubesic has worked for ABC and CBS television network affiliates. And while having 2 children, she started 2 different companies. And she also worked for Lamar Advertising, which means she's sold space on those big billboards you see as you're driving down the highway. And then she got into home building, and home building created this desire for her to start another company called Modular SureSite. And she creates homes and commercial projects with modular construction. And she's going to tell you exactly what that means. She's also creator and host of a new show called Offsite Construction Series. And this series brought together the conversation around offsite construction. And her love is building sustainable housing solutions and passive houses. So we are so lucky to have Audrey here today. So Audrey, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And Arinda, your background is amazing. I love how far you've grown and the courage it took for you to not only do 1 job, but to do 2, and to empower more women in our industry. So for that, I am truly grateful for you. You make me so proud. And thank you to Transportation Construction Girl. This is a great honor to be here. And I hope that after watching this video, we'll give you a little bit of inspiration as to where you can go and what you can be. Because really, if you put your mind to something, you can make it happen. Arinda is a perfect example. Keller and Sherry are, as well as I am. So don't ever give up and put your mind to something, and you can make great things happen. So with that, I will share my screen and get this all ready to go. All right. So Modular SureSite is my company. I started it about 4 years ago. I was working for several luxury custom home builders in the industry and building beautiful homes. It was a great opportunity. It allowed me to do marketing and sales to the things that I've grown to be as to where I am now. And from that, one of the builders that I worked with was telling me about offsite construction. And I was like, I don't really understand what offsite construction is. Isn't all construction? And basically it is, but there's a different form of construction. So there's traditional construction, which everybody's familiar with, which is basically anything that's getting built on the site. You see walls go up, you see buildings go up, you have cranes, things are all getting constructed on site. The difference with offsite construction is just that it's off the site. It's actually built in a factory, completely finished, and then transported to site. So my company started as a building company doing my own retail home projects. And then I started moving into consulting and speaking with groups of teams, trying to build opportunities around different developments. So as I like to say, we're changing the way we build and view modular projects. Modular construction, as you can kind of see here, is everything that's built in the factory. And when we think about that, it's kind of like your phone, your iPhone, your regular phone, your car, everything's kind of manufactured somewhere. And housing manufacturing has been around for 100 years. It's just a small percentage that has been doing it. Since COVID has started, people are starting to adapt and look at different opportunities of how to build. So modular really is just a construction form. It is typically rectangle boxes, as you can kind of see here inside the factory. There's a rectangle box. In that rectangle box, they basically build from the ground up. They create everything from flooring, lighting, everything that you see here in a kitchen is actually all finished as it comes to site. And then you have a finished product on the other side of that. So here's the interesting thing about a factory setup. You know, when you look at factories or you hear that things are making the factory, you're like, for me, I didn't really understand it until I actually got to experience it. And it's kind of like this assembly line. You go from 1 to 8. There's different things that happen in those assembly lines, different people, different workers that come in to finish these boxes in order to make a building. So you can kind of see down here, when you take apart this building schematic or this architectural drawing, there are actual boxes that line up like Legos that stack upon each other to actually form the building. So it's very exciting when you see it on site. There's a foundation that's made, and then it is actually, so here's a foundation of a home. It actually gets constructed the same way. You have the same excavation and foundation that happens. And then the actual boxes from the factory are carried on this frame. And then a crane comes, picks it up, puts the pieces together on the foundation and forms the building. So there's lots of different roles for people that are interested in construction. There's people that are on site, there's crane operators, there's trades, there's people that actually work at an office to coordinate all the building materials. There are many different roles in constructions. Just like Arinda said, there's a team of people that execute at different levels in order to construct a project. So in my experience, when I started 4 years ago, I was lucky enough to start my business in July. I was a one-woman show. I was the general contractor on 4 projects. I basically traveled 500 miles a week. I would never tell anybody to do what I did. I worked in Golden, I worked in Evergreen, I worked in Keystone or Summit County, and then I also worked in Woodland Park. But here's the really great thing about the opportunity that I created is that I was able to actually learn this from inside out. So this house right here is a ski home. This actual home started as a $1.2 million project. It had 4 modular boxes. These are all the actual images from that actual house itself. They were all assembled on site. I had different trades come in to be able to put these porches on, put the stonework on here. And this house actually appraised for $1.5 million when it was finished. And we also completed the project in 12 months, which is actually unheard of when you're working in the mountains. Mountain projects usually take anywhere from 18 to 36 months to complete, just because it's hard to get trades. you're dealing with weather issues. There's just a lot of different elements that you're working with. And so in order to complete a project of this size, this house was about 4,000 square feet. It takes a tremendous amount of time and effort. The house right here on the left is actually a house that we built for a really nice bachelor. He actually worked in Alaska. He was an electrician, and he had two different houses. He wanted to have a really small house just for himself. And this is a 1-box modular. This is basically 15 feet wide by about, I'm going to say, probably 60 feet wide. The interesting thing about this project is we had all these different details, like we did a pergola, we had this fence built, and the back of the house, we actually had a 2-car garage. Once this house was set on the foundation, this house was completed in 28 working days. So you can see there's a lot of speed to having a project done. The typical time for a project, if you were traditionally building this project, would take 12 months. This entire project, from the beginning of permitting to foundation and excavation, took about 7. So that was the interesting thing about modular. That is why I wanted to get in offsite construction, because I started seeing, as we are experiencing now, that there's not a lot of people going into the trades. There's not a lot of people understanding construction or wanting to get into it. And women of our generation, women in transportation, girl, the most amazing thing about being in construction is that we get paid the same amount as men for the same amount of work. This is something that I know we all hear about and we all hope that happens, but it truly does happen in our industry. So I say that to you as to guide you. Arinda made such a great analogy of, if you can dream it, if you can write it out, you can be it. I'm a perfect example of that. I always wanted to be a home builder, but I couldn't understand how I was going to be able to do all the pieces as a one-woman show. So this was my solution. This is what came to me. And the interesting thing about this is we're seeing more and more homes on the East Coast and the West Coast that are starting to be design build this way. We're also seeing commercial projects happen in the same format. And it's interesting because Arinda said their big drill that they were using, they basically have that drill. It's actually transported and put into that hole. But before they get there, they bring all the pieces to that location. They build it, just exactly what we're doing here in modular construction. And then they actually execute the project. So we're in very similar lines of the way things that work. So when we were talking, Keller said to me, what advice would you give somebody in the industry? Like, what do we tell our girls? First of all, we're so excited that you're even considering being in this industry. And just remember, there are a million jobs. There are 200,000 pieces that go into a house. There are probably more millions of that go into a bridge or into a tunnel or at an office. The most amazing thing that I can tell you is just find something that interests you. Start researching, see something online or you see a commercial, start researching it. Just try to find out a little bit more about it. Find somebody, since you guys are all social media active, and believe me, I have a 19 and 24-year-old son. You guys are constantly on your phones. Start finding people you can follow on social media. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to be like Arinda. I want to start in finance. Look up finance in social media. Start looking to see if there's construction finance. Put the words together and start following. Start educating yourself by watching what others are doing. The other thing that I did when I started my company, I didn't know anybody in modular construction. So I started Googling it. Then I found 13 different builders in the state, and I literally called each one of them up. And for 5 months, I went around and met every single one of them. I wanted to find out how they were doing things, what products they were selling, what factories were they working with, why were they doing what they were doing, what was the people that were in those roles to be able to execute and do a home. That's how I actually started. Then that's pretty much how I've done my whole career. When I was in TV, I wanted to find out, what is a TV engineer? What do people do on stage? Why do they interview people this way? Why do they speak to you in this language? Why are we looking at these images? Just be curious. That's all you really have to do. And as we kind of put these pieces together, you can see there's so many different facets of a house. You can actually be an excavator and you can run this equipment. You can be a carpenter and build stairs. You can do flat work or concrete. You can actually work in an odd office and manage the project. You can be a plumber or an HVAC person and understand how the electricity works in electrical panel. How does the water run in your house? Or you can come up and you can actually be a seller of building materials. You don't have to be in any part of construction other than wanting to be in sales and knowing that there's lights, there's floors, there's windows, there's doors, there's all these pieces that have to go into projects. Where do they come from? So the only thing I can tell you is you're in such an amazing growing industry, and the more women and the more support that we can create for each other, the bigger vision, the bigger opportunities. We're going to be able to bring in more women. We're going to be able to bring in more inclusiveness. We're going to be able to bring in people of diversity. There are so many great opportunities. So I said, keep dreaming, keep looking out there and trying to find what fits you. Because if you can find a job that doesn't feel like work, then that is success. And here's information if anybody wants to see any of my projects. If you're even thinking that this might be something you want to get into, my email is audrey@modularsuresite.com. My other part of my business is offsitedirt.com. You can learn a huge amount of things about offsite construction, panelization, container homes, modular construction. You can learn about education, what has to do with BIM or design. Maybe you're interested in interior design. There's so many opportunities for you to grow and to get paid your value. So thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
It's awesome, Audrey. And talking to people in the industry. I mean, I could make calls tomorrow and have people willing to talk that afternoon. And it's a great way to get information. And there are women like Audrey and Arinda that are out there willing and able to be a resource. I'd also like you to maybe talk a little bit, Audrey, because modular homes, the sky is the limit on them now. They can be completely off the grid. They can be the most amazing. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the customization that's available?
Yeah, the interesting thing about modular is modular definitely gets confused with manufactured. When people hear modular, they're thinking manufactured homes that are built in a mobile home park, right? They're completely different. Those are two different types of homes. A mobile home park is built under a HUD code, which is a specific building code for that product to be financed and to be built. Modular homes are built under the International Residential Code, so the IRC. That's exactly what traditional homes are built on. The interesting thing about modular is the efficiencies and the quickness of having them built. So my houses take 1 week to build in a factory and then ship to the site, right? In modular construction, depending on the factory, and my specific factory that I work with is in Missouri, I am able to take any floor plan and design it modular. It doesn't have to look like a box that you've probably seen a million times somewhere and you're like, I don't think that's what I want to live in. They have completely changed the way that we see construction. The factory that I work with also is a white label factory, which means he actually builds for huge brands. There are brands like coffee places that you visited that actually are modular. There are hotels, and there's also restaurants. The reason why people haven't labeled it as modular is because industry-wide, people aren't ready to accept it. But there's a huge culture change since COVID. People are now willing to actually create their homes, select every single piece online, put it together, and actually have it shipped to their site and actually construct it on site. So you can do anything. If you can dream it, we can build it. There are more and more factories coming on target. Right now, there is a factory going up in Buena Vista. It's called Fading West Development. They are going to be doing multifamily and larger development projects and single family homes. There's also 2 other factories that are in Pueblo. I hear that there's another one that's coming in Grand Junction. And on the national front, there are probably, I would say, about 200 factories. And every day there's another factory that's getting funded and finding a place to start building. So you can see we're only 9% of the market nationally right now for building. But in the next 5 years, they think that modular construction is going to actually get up to about 20%.
That's doubling. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Let's get more women in.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit? You started several companies. Could you maybe say what's the best thing about it and what's the biggest myth people have about it?
Yes, I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've definitely started, sold, bought lots of different companies. Best thing about it is I'm my own boss, and it's the scariest thing, right? The best thing is because I get to live my life, raise my children, be able to be at places so that I can live a full life. You know, the only person to blame for any type of failure is myself, but I don't believe in failure. I believe that we are led to do the things that we are supposed to do. I also feel like if you live from your heart and you treat people with respect and you honor all, not saying that they honor you, good things always come to you. I think that when you are a young individual, like my daughter tells me all the time, Mom, I'm going to do Instagram and I'm going to start creating a brand. And I say, go for it, right? I think we have to release our fear of whatever we're holding and know that we have the ability to do anything we want. We just have to work hard. We just have to put our mind to it, not give up, and know that we're present. And every time we be present, every time we walk into a role, say you're at a company, you're like, yeah, it's just not working for me. That's okay. That's when it's the time to talk to someone and say, these are the things I'm not feeling comfortable about. What can I do to be better? Or is there another area in the company that I can do something else? So I think it's about having a conversation. I think it's definitely about believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one's going to. So it starts with you first.
And I want to thank you for talking about hard work. I remember talking to a woman years ago who said she was going to start her own company and quit her retail job because she was tired of working such long hours. She was working 10 to 4, and I said, well, you don't want to start your own company. So you do have to work hard, but there are lots of rewards. I think both of you have displayed that. Arinda, could you talk about what are your suggestions to young women to succeed in their careers?
First, Audrey, like, so impressive. It's really an honor to be on this panel with you. Yeah, I think the one thing that you'll probably pull from both of us is that neither one of us were sitting at home on our couch watching Netflix waiting for somebody to text us with a job opportunity. Like, you have to, one, be cognizant of what's going on around you, pay attention, see where the shortcomings are, see what interests you. You work a lot. You spend a lot of your day working. And, you know, up until recently, we've had to like live our lives in these little pigeonholes. Like, these are the hours I'm at work and I'm this working person, and now I'm at home and I'm either a mother or I have a house to run or whatever, a life to live. And those things used to have to happen separately. And we're really fortunate that our lives get to be wholesome now, that you can be running your home and spending time with your children and producing at work. And those things don't have to be, you know, in their own little silos anymore, but you are going to work. There's just no way around that. The more that you are willing to put in, one, the more confidence you're going to have if your ability to do that work. And then two, that's where you see the outcome. So if you want to be successful and there's luxuries that you want, then you're going to work for them one way or another. Like, I also, my children are 29 and 25, and they'll say things to me like, gosh, you're going to be on vacation again? Like, you get so much vacation. We don't get a lot of vacation. And I'm all, I didn't have any vacation when I was 25. I almost never went on vacation at 25. So, so you reap what you sow. Eventually you get to a place in your career where what used to take you 3 hours to do, you can do in 45 minutes. And what used to take a week to accomplish, you now have connections and you can make that happen in a day or a day and a half. And so the hard work pays off. And eventually it means that same work isn't hard. It's a couple of phone calls and maybe, an hour of your time, and you'll have accomplished what used to take a really long time. So be patient and you'll learn. Like all of us learn. None of us woke up, went to work and knew exactly how to do our jobs efficiently on day one.
Awesome, thank you. And I would also like to ask both of you, and I'll ask you first, Audrey, what do you wish someone had told you when you were in your teens?
That no one has all the answers. No one has all the answers. When I got into construction, I was so intimidated because I'm like, how am I going to do a building company? Plus, I'm learning a whole different form of construction. And you know what it is? Asking questions. And I think if somebody would have told me not to be afraid and to just find the answers, look them up, or have a conversation, I think a lot of other things would have changed faster for me. So that would be my answer for that question. I really, really believe that.
I think that's awesome. There's research that shows that one of the things that girls experience when they go into high school is that they really don't want to be wrong. And that doesn't come from an egotistical perspective, but it comes from not wanting to answer and then be wrong. And the fact of the matter is we've all been wrong. And the only dumb question is the question that isn't asked. So listen to what these amazing women have to say because they have been there and done that. And let me guess. Okay, raise your hand if you have ever been wrong. Thank you. It's learning opportunities. So Arinda, how about you? What do you wish you had known when you were a teenager?
I think the first and foremost, the thing I wish I'd known is that your career is not this laid out path that starts at square A and ends at square Z. It just doesn't work that way. And I know my girls, and I did it when I was 18. When you're venturing out into the world, whether that be for your education or you're going into the workforce, you think you're supposed to have all the answers, and none of us did. I went to school to be a paralegal, and I don't think I was a paralegal longer than 6 months. But my 18-year-old self would have never perceived of that. I had this plan, and then life comes and you start to realize these are sacrifices that I'm maybe not willing to make. And I think being honest with yourself about that too. Like sometimes people, I know when I was a young mom, I had my first child when I was 20. And I was like, I don't want to work 70 hours a week. I want to be at home with my baby. And I want a year where I'm not working and I just get to be home with my baby. And, my mother who raised us in the corporate world was like, wait, what? I was like, and it's not that it's a wrong answer, and it didn't diminish how much I wanted to achieve in life. I just wanted this year to myself to, nestle. And I don't think there's any shame around that. Like as women, I think we feel like when we prioritize things that are traditionally that feminine role, we think we have to sacrifice something else, and you don't. You know, you can be a mom, and you can be nurturing, and you can be soft, quote unquote, and still be a successful businesswoman, and still be taken seriously, and still have a lot of confidence. And you don't have to sacrifice. We don't have to choose to be a particular role in this world. We get to be both, or all.
That's awesome. Thank you, Arinda. I am reminded of one young woman who went through our programs who, after she had listened to another woman talk about her career journey and how it went sort of like, you know, back and forth. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, you don't know how much of a relief that was to hear her talk about her career, because I'm only 16 and it's incredibly just creates so much anxiety for me to try to think about what I want to do for the next 40 years, because that's twice the age I am right now. And she said it wasn't until then that I realized I didn't have to pick the one thing I was going to be, and that was it. So sharing your career journeys is huge. And I also want to say that I had one person say, well, you know, they can't wear high heels. I want everybody to know that, Audrey, whoa, you just maneuver those things with ease and grace. They were like this tall. I'm like, you go, girl. So it's also embracing who you are, whatever that may be. So we are getting to the end. Is there any last thing that you'd like to say to girls?
I'll just jump in really quick. Just be you, right? Lead from your heart. Be you, be curious, and just put yourself out there. And I love how Arinda said, there is no one career. It's not like our parents did and their parents, where they were in jobs for 40 years and whether they were happy or not happy. I think that we are brought to earth to always be happy. So always find your happiness. I think work hard. But no, just like Arinda said, nobody knows where they're going to start. You just start somewhere. You just take the first step. You just release your fear and know that you're worth it. And just be you.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like that's the one thing that I would tell anybody is there's 0 point in showing up any way other than completely authentic, because you're never going to be able to keep it up. So start out. Not everybody's going to be your best friend, and there's going to be people who you don't jive with you and maybe don't like you, and that's fine. Not everybody's meant to be, you know, your best friend and help you through every single thing. Always be kind, always be cognizant of how you are coming across, assume the best in people. Like, I think a lot of times we go through periods where you feel like everybody's got it out for you. I promise you they don't. And you might as well show up wholly as who you are, because that's where your success lies. You're never going to be successful pretending to be somebody else.
That is awesome. Thank you both so much. That was just fantastic. And I just can't thank you for the time, because it's so inspiring, and it just creates opportunities for young women that they didn't even know existed. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing your journeys. I believe you are both going to be at Transportation and Construction Girl Day on September 28th. We invite everybody else to come as well. But we're excited to have it this year. So excited to have it after last year. And we're going to have interactive exhibits, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So we hope others will come as well. And again, I just want to thank you for being such an inspiration. So I hope you have a fantastic day, and thank you from Transportation and Construction Girl. You rock.
Thank you. You guys do too. Thank you for doing what you're doing for these women and believing in them. You guys are changing the world one woman at a time.
Yes, thank you so much. Such an honor to be on the panel.
Likewise.
Talk to you both soon. Bye.
Transportation and Construction Girl will continue to support, inspire, and motivate young women to achieve their dreams.